Guys, we're back. You may have seen Group 1 do their own personal trainings. I've got Group 2 here. I've got Vicky, Cedric, Archana, and we call him P-Dog, but aka Paran. That's his actual nickname, no joke. But we're going to dive deep into everyone's journey. We're going to start with Paran. Let's go all the way back. Like, why did you get into fitness? And just obviously, you've done a couple of one photo shoot, but you've been shredded a few times as well. I mean, you're Mr. Shredded in general. The floor is yours.
No, absolutely. So way back when, probably it's primary school, high school, love sports as everyone does. But I was always average at everything. Like I enjoyed playing. I say average, but maybe a little bit better than average, but never good enough to maybe make the teams or anything like that. Or even I'm talking about even high school teams, right?
Okay.
And that was decent, right? But I loved playing badminton, hockey, football, of course, soccer for our American clients. Basketball, cricket, everything, right? I enjoyed sports, but it was one of those things where South Asian, you never really think that that's an avenue you're going to explore.
Nope.
So it's one of those things, you get older and older, you stop playing, you maybe do a bit of 5-a-side, 7-a-side once a week as you get older, going into, college and university, and then it just stops. And university is just one of those times where it's priming you to just put on weight because you don't really
go
exercise.
one of two ways, isn't it? You either go for health or you're like, I'm done.
Exactly. So through uni, it was one of those things where I just kept gaining weight. I was one of those guys who, just took takeout all the time, didn't really know how to cook. So gained a lot of weight through uni. And for those of you who didn't know, I wasn't always in fitness. I actually was in finance before. Again, South Asian background, you get pushed into medicine, law, or finance.
Classic.
Right? So here I was thinking...
Team accountant, huh?
So I was thinking, okay, finance is going to be something that I'm a little bit more interested in. So followed down that route, but even that industry in itself is primed to give you an unhealthy lifestyle, right? Long days, high levels of stress, a lot of client entertainment, late nights, alcohol, not the best, lifestyle per se. And I just found myself gaining more and more weight. Ended up being in and around 91 kilos, which is close to 200 pounds, I think.
Yeah, nearly 200. Yeah.
200 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's
for context, what's your shredded weight right now?
The most shredded I got down to was 58 kilos, which is about 128, 130.
Yeah, that's insane, right?
Now I'm comfortably around 144, 146.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I needed to make that change. I saw my brother go through something similar. I was like, let me give this a go. Gave it my all. I'm very kind of someone who's into structure, into routine. And I was like, I'm going to follow this. I'm doing this to improve my health. I want to achieve something. And that's how I got into the whole, fat loss business. And ultimately, I think that first fat loss phase, which maybe not many people know, I dropped a whole bunch of weight. It was ended up being then close to around 30 kilos from 91 to 58. But
over 60 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. But not many people know this. During that first fat loss phase, I couldn't actually train for a month or so, right? I had a procedure to sort out some deviated septum, and I couldn't lift heavy.
Damn.
So that meant that the lack of training, which is why it's so important, I didn't have that physique that I wanted. And I think from that point onwards, I knew, right, okay, I've been able to lose fat. I want to take this to the next level. I want to learn how to build a physique that I'm proud to have. And yeah, since then, it's just been more of the case of I loved what it gave me from a mindset perspective to pull me from, perhaps a bit of a place where I wasn't happy in myself with how my life was going. But the benefits that it just kind of pulled me from, and it just made me think, I want to be able to impart this and unlock this for other people. That then brought me into the fitness industry. The rest is history. Gone through multiple fat loss phases, muscle building phases, both as non-veg as veg.
Yep.
And I've just been able to understand the ins and outs of the long game, right? And I think that's the main thing.
How you found it? Was going into vegetarianism, and then recently you obviously come out of that. But how was it during that time period for you, with essentially fitness in general? Did you find it difficult, or you're actually it's not that bad? Because sometimes we get a lot of vegetarians that are like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this because I'm vegetarian. We get that less now anyway than ever, but there's always this belief sometimes, which is like, I can't get that physique because I don't have eggs or I don't have chicken or whatever. Whereas in your case, you've gone through both ends. I think you've crushed it both ways, but do you want to, it would be good to discuss that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, South Asian background, and even though I'm Punjabi, and generally speaking, Punjabis tend to always just eat meat at home. I grew up no meat in the house.
We discussed that this morning, and I was
Yeah,
baffled myself.
Mum's strict vegetarian, so we didn't really have meat in the house. So I grew up vegetarian, but I did eat meat, growing up when I would go out to eat or get takeaway or something like that.
Classic South Asian. Right?
Yeah. And the actual funny thing is, during that first fat loss phase, I was still eating meat, and it goes to show that, okay, well, you can still not necessarily get optimal results whilst eating meat if you're not training, right? But I actually became vegetarian after my fat loss phase. I was maybe a couple of months post fat loss, and it was a new year. It was a new year, and I think things have been playing on my mind, ethical stuff, and I just thought, okay, let me try it. Let me try it. I turned vegetarian, and I would say I maybe had a bit of an easy run of it simply because 2020 happened, right? The big 2020 when everyone was stuck at home, and it gave me the opportunity to learn how to cook, and I'd have to cook at home anyway. So I naturally was just able to stick to it. And then 1 year became 2, became 3, became almost 5 years that I ended up being a vegetarian. And through that time, I went through 2 muscle building phases, 1 fat loss phase, two fat loss phases. Actually, yeah, completed 2 photo shoots. So I've probably run about 3 fat loss phases, 2 photo shoots at this stage.
Smashed it, yeah.
Yeah. And so I've been able to do it both ways. And as you mentioned, just up until recently, become non-veg again. And it's just more so to explore things a little bit differently.
Has it made it easier in certain ways?
I won't lie, it does make it easier. Like, it's not impossible to do this vegetarian, right? But
Yeah.
I think it's just having the understanding that vegetarian sources of protein are going to come with your fats, your carbohydrates. So you just got to manage things a little bit better. It is definitely easier to hit protein as a non-veg, but it's not impossible either way.
Yeah. 60% of our clients are vegetarian. So it's like, you can still move the needle, in my opinion as well. Okay, cool. How do you find like muscle building now at this moment? Like, is it still the same drive as early days, or are you like, it's like I'm still going through the motions and so on?
No, I've always been obsessed with pushing myself to my limits physically, because I think training is the ultimate form of self-improvement that no one can take away from you. You are working hard for everything that you gain. I will say I've not lost interest or anything like that, because I've not navigated post-fat loss very well in the past, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's becoming then obsessed with wanting to put on size or chasing numbers. It's like, if you don't go through what could be a bit more of an optimal post-fat loss phase, you can quickly just find yourself close to where you were when you first started. And then you end up not liking how you look, etc. And I found myself in that place once or twice. And this last fat loss phase that I did, I thought to myself, right, I have never gone through a maintenance block, and that in itself is probably harder than anything, because you've got to have the patience more so than anything, right? And I'm happy to say that I think I've learned a lot through going through this past, about 4 or so months, really pretty much maintaining between a 2-3 pound range, but being able to see how the body can adapt to more food, which of course is brilliant, but performance, just seeing the changes while still holding on to an acceptable kind of physique that you're proud of.
Yeah. Pretty cool, actually. Very cool. Arch, let's get to you. Third shoot coming up, I believe.
Towards the end of this year, most likely. Yeah.
By the time people watch this, maybe a couple of years down the line, third shoot's locked in, right? Talk us through that, the very beginning of like why getting into fitness, and fitness now more than a passion to a large extent. So let's kick off there.
Fitness kind of fell into my lap, weirdly enough, if I had to explain it in that way. I can't say, and this is kind of going back into my school years, like at school, high school, I wasn't ever into sports I almost ran the opposite direction of it.
There's always a saying, by the way, the girls who like hate PE, yeah, suddenly become all coaches like 10 years later. In my school, there's like 4 girls who hate PE, all coaches right now. Unbelievable. Yeah, I think you probably went through that, right?
So I never played any sports in my life. I never entered a gym until fitness and fell into my life essentially back in 2019. I didn't know that it was a possibility. I was never educated on this. I never saw my parents do that. My dad was relatively healthy in just movement. So I have a lot of what I believe about health and fitness from him, which initially got me into food because life for us generally revolves around food, and I wanted to be
Fact.
somebody who made food healthy, tasty. So I trained as a chef. Nutrition was always a predominance on there. Had to learn about it. Unfortunately, wasn't able to pursue that because just roadblocks at home, kids. It just didn't feel possible to constantly be out as a private chef. Then I went amongst my own journey, and I started loving training because I realized that there was this potential, similar to what Paran mentioned about, this battle against yourself. It's never against somebody else. It's against yourself, just getting better every day. The mental toughness it built up was incredible, and something, again, I'd never experienced it before because I never did play sports or wasn't into anything movement related even. Very basically, we didn't do anything. And I was able to blend sort of my love for understanding nutrition, food, and see the benefits of that in relation to training and what it did for my physique. And that I thought was really powerful. And so I have not looked back since then. That's really and truly the beginning of my journey.
I want to go into muscle building because you went through a pretty lengthy muscle building phase,
2 years.
I guess, which is a lot for most women,
Yeah.
including guys, right? Like, Pam, you'd say even for guys to go through a 3-year muscle building phase, kind of unheard of to a large extent, especially once you get in shape. But for you, and for 3 years, and your second shoot looked completely different to the first one. Talk us through the depths of that particular journey.
So I think for context, it's worth mentioning that I lost 11 kilos, which is 22 pounds.
Yeah, usually,
22 pounds
23, yeah.
during my first shoot. And obviously that was a place I'd never been. So I liked what I looked like then. But then as I continued to muscle build, I appreciated the training and the numbers very differently. To not really so much physically. Like I never looked at the physique. I always looked at how am I getting stronger? And I love that aspect of like my training log and constantly beating it week on week on week on week on week. And it didn't, even in that first year of muscle building, I didn't really worry about it so much as to like, am I gaining on the scale? There was only one instance that it came at a bit of a tipping point. I was like, okay, I'm enjoying the training and I'm seeing this differences, but I don't know if I'm loving what I'm seeing on the scale. And I'm glad I went through that. And it was this little hurdle I had to overcome. Because I always thought of myself like, I'm a 50-kilo girl. Like, I can't be anything else. I was so number focused. But I just had to overcome that sort of, actually, you know what? You do look okay at 51. No, but you look better at 54. You look better at 56. All of a sudden, I'm like 6 kilos heavier than what I thought I would be. And I enjoyed it. And that helped me to then relate it back to what I did in my training, continuously getting, like at some point I did get a bit numbers focused on the training log and I had to hold myself back like, okay, you can't just do it. You're going to injure if you keep pushing too much.
It's addictive, right?
It is 100%. Like all throughout lockdown as well, no access to gym, but 4 days a week, consistent with training, never missed a day, never ever missed a day. And that was truly my identity. I think I speak a lot about this when I say that I almost adopted a very new identity to like, I'm someone who trains, I'm someone who's healthy. It became less physique focused, more like training focused, more strength focused, and more of what it does to my longevity. I realized a lot more that if I don't do this right now, it is going to impact me negatively in the near future even, right? Like 10, 15, 20 years down the line is not far away if you think about it.
Yeah.
But I'm an independent person. Most of us are quite independent in how we live. Do I want to worry about like, hey, my kids have got to look after me when I'm older and like push me around in a wheel? Like, I don't want that. And that's why I've enjoyed the strength building, the muscle building side of things a lot more actually.
There's also a series coming through which we'd go into like South Asian health. Funny for you three in it with D, and D backs up with science. All about muscle loss, bone density. That's going to be a really good one. So go check out because what you mentioned that links it, really well directly as well. Third shoot, what's the aims? What's the reasoning behind? Because sometimes people do 1 or 2. The third one is like usually far away. To be fair, this is what would be 3 years down the line, I believe.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. You're about 3 years down the line. I mean, I don't have any major goal per se.
Is it more like deadline
yeah,
focus?
it's more just a deadline. I mean, to put it very plainly, this is a slightly age-related thing. Like, I'm gonna be 40 in the next 3 years, and I thought if I have to do a shoot, I may as well do one right now, get lean again,
And then
go back into like a muscle building phase for the next 3 years, and then do one at 40. So that's kind of the thought process behind it. I'm not one who always needs like a large goal. I like to kind of remain consistent with how I approach things. I don't feel like a shoot is always necessary to do, but it felt pertinent this year, and that's why the shoot's happening. There's no like large goal if that's the case.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, there's 3 of you doing shoots, so we'll dive deep into that, isn't it? Sarah, just going to you now. This is your second shoot, right?
So I haven't got anything locked in, but it's going to be...
She is now, isn't it?
But it will be on the cards.
Okay. Let's go back, obviously, the very before photo shoot one.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get into fitness yourself?
So if we talk about like school days, I wasn't into PE, but I was very active. I was brought up in Kenya and we did a lot of hiking. We did Duke of Edinburgh Awards. We did a lot of Mount Kenya and all of that kind of stuff. And so I was always very active in that way. And then I always had these kind of milestones in my head that by the age of 28 or before 30, I wanted to have my own business, and then I also wanted to have my PADI certified for deep sea diving. And that, you've got to have amount of physical strength for it. Yeah. But I didn't train or anything because I didn't know anything about any of this. We weren't brought up with training, exercise, nothing like that. I just thought gyms were for running. For,
just cardio bunnies.
Cardio bunny.
Yeah.
I've never walked into a gym. And then sort of, and I was approaching towards my 40s, one of our friends, he'd passed away. And I think that was a little bit of a wake-up call. He wasn't even 40. And it was actually my husband, Chirag, where he was like, all right, I actually need to do something for me. So he went into this journey, and I was doing the cooking. So I was like, hang on, I'm doing half of this work here. I'm weighing out the food. I might as well just join with
the real MVP.
So then I was like, okay, so let me start up. And I didn't really do it for me, and it was never for an aesthetics part. But it was only as I got into losing some of the weight, and this is after my second child, and I started realizing that this wasn't the aesthetics part. This was actually me doing something for me, because when I had the kids, it always became about everyone else, and I was always second.
Yeah.
And I had my first one, and then 2 years later, the first one was a very difficult pregnancy. In fact, I had an ectopic pregnancy before then, where I had tubes taken out, was told I'm not able to conceive naturally, and I somehow did. And then the second one came along, and it's actually something I've not actually spoken about. I'm going to say it here, and I don't even think my parents know. So, Mum, Dad, if you're watching this,
Spotify.
It's I went into very deep postnatal depression, and it was something I couldn't speak about. I didn't even tell Chirag about it.
Wow.
But I knew that I wasn't right. There were things that were going in my head, and it wasn't right. But then this only really came to surface after I started a journey on me, because I was working on me. And I realized, what? You're always fighting some kind of demons in your head, whether it's from your childhood, whether it's from now, whether it's from marriage related, in-laws, your own parents, whatever it is. There's always something. You're always trying to have this perception of you, trying to be...
There's a battle, right?
The battle. Trying to be that great daughter, trying to be that great sister, trying to be that perfect daughter-in-law, trying to be the perfect wife, and having a hot meal on the table, and whatever it is, whatever kind of culture that you've brought up with or married into. And then this was when I started the journey, when these barriers just started to break. And then, I went into my weight loss journey. I was approaching my 40s, and I thought, what? Actually, this is about me. This is about me now. Forget the world. Forget everyone else. I need to be a better person for me, because if I'm not, those people that I need to look after don't get the good version of me. And there's a lot of people depending on me. And then COVID hit. I was just about to do my shoot. I was 2 weeks away from doing my photo shoot when we hit lockdown.
2020, right?
Yep,
March.
2020, 20th of March, 2020.
I remember it.
23rd of March, that was it. And then, in England, we had a very strict lockdown, very similar to how New York was over here. And then, the photo shoot became less of a priority because homeschooling came the priority.
Oh, God.
And it was just a mess, It was an absolute mess. You couldn't even get food or grocery runs and everything. So then my journey again took a dip. That's when I realized that actually I'm not being a nice mum again. So I remember sitting down with Trag and I said, I actually right now need to know a pecking order in our house. Who is number one? Who do I look after? Because I cannot do this. I'm spread so thin. This is ridiculous. And it was actually him, he said that, actually, you're number one.
The Royal MVP, as I said.
You're number one because if you're not number one, you're like the director of operations. This whole house kind of just falls to pieces. And I was like, oh, I like that. Good. I'm glad to know. But then I was, what? The kids' food is going to be done. Or what? That is going to be printed. Or what? They're going to learn. Whatever it is. Everyone's going to get food at some point on the table. No one's going to starve. But actually, I'm going to be me. And so then I picked up my journey again, whatever it was. There were no dumbbells. You couldn't even buy dumbbells in lockdown. I was
Do you know what? I
just
bought one, yeah?
bands.
I bought some £500. Biggest scam in the world, not gonna lie.
It was
good.
a mess. And then when things started easing up, I actually went into this photo shoot. And I went into the photo shoot with the conception of this is aesthetic and this is for me, this is my mental side. But I actually wasn't as strong as I wanted to be or as I could be. I think I looked great. The photo shoot was great, lean, but I was lean. I was back to the schedule lean that I was
Way back
when I was, growing up as a teen. But obviously this time there's looser skin. You've got kids, you have to embrace it. I remember my photo shoot as well. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of loose skin. And it's like, well, you know what? Actually embrace it. Those are your tiger marks. You've got children.
So true.
There's nothing you can do. So that was that kind of phase. And then got the whole fit by 40, all of that. And then now it's a bit different.
So obviously third shoot now is here, or second, I should say.
Second,
You said something to me before we went into actual doing this pod as well, or this journey story, I should say. You're like, this is my the menopause side of things, right?
Yeah.
And I think not a lot of people talk about it.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's quite cool. Like obviously the journey you've already gone through, but this next shoot, what's the why behind that? I think it's really quite cool.
Yeah, it's it's a completely different phase. As you said, not many people talk about it. I don't think I have these conversations with some of my best friends.
Yeah. Here we are.
It's very much a case of menopause, whatever. You're too young for it. That's the kind of thing. And I didn't train for a good year, and that was when I moved country. So I moved country a year and a half ago, and it was a big thing because when I moved, my mum fell ill straight away, so I was traveling back and forth London. I went over the Atlantic 13 times, in 12 months.
And that jet lag is rough.
It's rough.
Especially in England.
And then trying to settle kids and everything. So training for me just took a backseat completely. But then I started realizing I wasn't feeling myself. I didn't recognize myself. I was slipping back into how it was before my first shoot. And those are the signs saying, I actually need to do something for me again. This is about me. This is about my life and everyone getting the better of me. And I started looking at my symptoms a bit more, and I cleaned up my diet. I started training a little bit more, walking, getting the steps in, hitting all the basics, going back in, getting myself into a bit more of a routine. And that's when I realized I'm still don't feel myself. There were a lot of symptoms. There was the brain fog, and I was forgetting people's names and stuff.
Got my name once, so
yeah. Who am I calling? Just all sorts. There were, so many different kind of symptoms, the hot flushes at night and things like that. And that's where I realized I need to get some external help on this now. So there were two parts of this. This was getting the accountability for myself to get myself back into training differently this time. And I think it was what you said to me, is like, Cedric, we need to get strong. And that was, when I trained with you, Dol, George in December.
Oh, it's they're very recent, a couple of months ago, right?
Very recently. And that was, again, another huge turning point for me, because it was a case of, actually, I can do this. It's about believing in yourself and having that other person believing in you too. And that's why we look for that accountability, that external validation from people as well. So there was that side of it. getting that accountability again that, you know what, I know I need to get my steps and I know how I need to eat my protein. It's those kind of things, we know it as coaches. But actually, this is a new phase of my life. It's unknown territory.
Yeah.
So I started embarking on looking to someone for actual menopause help itself. So I've started taking some HRT. Now, HRT is one of those things where people think, oh, you know, wow, it's a big deal. But actually, all it is doing is supplementing the hormones that you automatically decline in as you get older. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to be training, but I want to make sure that my hormones are in line with my training to make it substantial. I want to make sure I'm maximizing the gains out of all the movement I'm doing, the nutrition I'm putting, the time, the effort by having that. So yeah, watch this space.
Yeah, and Sedge will document this as well, so you guys will kind of see this, ask the questions. Everyone's IGs will be even link in the description in the below. But yeah, I think it'll be quite cool to, when you get back into it, once you're really into this side of things, we can discuss it even more. I think that'd be really, quite cool. Lastly, I've got Vix over here next to me as well. Vicky, I think it'd be cool to go back. You've done a sports science degree, but way before that, why are you always into fitness? How did you get into it?
So I have actually been into fitness for quite a bit of my life. I grew up quite sporty. I was into dancing, swimming. I was in a girls' football team. Then my first sibling came along, so I had to reduce the intensity of certain things. So the football and the swimming went away, but actually one of the main things I stuck with was horse riding. A little bit different, I know. So I stuck with horse riding. Then I went into netball, basketball, volleyball, all that stuff. I've basically done a little bit of everything. I was in the netball teams at school, the volleyball teams at school, even travelled into Europe to actually play like team sports as well. So yeah, it was pretty heavy on the sports side of things. The only thing I actually continued doing was horse riding. It was something that probably stuck with me the most.
Even till recently, or?
Kind of till recently. There was an injury that came sort of within that about 8 years ago, so it's been reduced and I only really do it for fun now. But I used to basically near enough ride every single day. So that was like my activity. That was like my sort of gym, I guess we can say, for that time being. But it got to a point in school where we actually were allowed to go into the school gym. So when we were about 16 years old, and I started just going with my friends, just having a bit of fun on the machines. Not a clue what I'm doing, just doing things for the sake of doing them. We never actually got showed how to do things properly either. We were just basically told, don't put the weights too heavy. Make sure you look at the instructions that are, pictured on the machine. I'm here trying to figure out what I'm doing. All my friends are trying to figure out what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing, but we're having fun. That lasted for about 2 years, and then we actually progressed. When we turned 18, we progressed into like a local gym, the gym group. The UK will know.
The worst gym in the world, by the way.
Gym in the
I'm
world.
currently still banned from a few. That's another story for another day.
Oh yeah, it's honestly, I don't recommend. But anyway, it was like a starting point for me where it was quite social for me in the aspect that I would actually be in that gym 7 days a week. I'll come back to that as well at some point, because obviously 7 days is not something you want to be doing if you want to actually get results. But at that time, I thought that 7 days a week is what I need to be doing. It was like an escape for me. I really enjoyed going to work out, see my friends, speak to some of the gym staff, do some classes, just meet completely different people who are on a different level. And it got to about, let's say 2-3 years in, and I'm like, okay, I'm training 7 days a week. I'm doing what I should be doing. I'm hitting my steps, but there's one thing that I'm not doing, and it's my nutrition. My nutrition was not up to scratch whatsoever. It's just one of those things where my reflection was, okay, I look the exact same. I look the exact same that I did 3 years ago, and so something's wrong.
Something's got to change, right?
Something's got to change. And I actually invested in a PT myself for 4 months, just once a week. She was actually like a family friend, so she sort of helped me with learning the machines, knowing how to train properly, injury prevention, because I actually did get a slip disc from horse riding, which is why I stopped. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, obviously got into the gym, started training a little bit better. We're fast forwarding a little bit now, and actually lockdown happened and the gyms are closed. I actually flew out to Poland with my family and basically got stuck there for about 3 months. It was really hard. There was nothing. I was also shopping for dumbbells, for treadmills, for barbells. My dad was like, you're not paying that much money for that. we managed to still get some bits. It's still in the garage and it gives me PTSD, to be completely honest.
so does
Like if
mine.
I go into that garage and I see those iron dumbbells, I'm like, no, not touching them. But yeah, basically through lockdown, I kind of just stayed on top of it with my training. You know, like those on Instagram, they do live workouts. So I'd just join in with that.
That was
my
so
mum would
much,
join
yeah.
in, my sister would join in, which was really nice and encouraging that my mum, who's never been into the fitness world, nothing, not a clue. And my younger sister, who was at the time 10, was joining in and just, you know, just having a bit of fun with it. But I actually invested in a coach through lockdown myself, and
Online,
like,
right? This was
online,
Yeah.
an online coach. And honestly, it's probably one of the best investments I ever did. I was going to uni at the time. I had a part-time job. So it was like a big investment in my life at the time. And I did about 10 months with her and it was game changing. I still have self-reflections literally from what she's taught me to this day. And bear in mind, this was, 6 years ago now? So yeah, she taught me a load on training intensity, that I don't need to train 7 days a week. I reduced to literally 3 days a week, and that is it. I trained hard, I trained with intention, quality over quantity. It took me a while to learn that, but it worked wonders. My body completely changed, but alongside that, the nutrition obviously came with. Obviously, the challenges with nutrition, we all know the challenges that happen with nutrition, but it's something that over the last couple of years, you get better with, and you realise that this works for you, this doesn't work for you, just stick with what works best for you. It's a trial and error situation. So yeah, just kind of fast forwarding, I was just sort of floating about, maintaining, just enjoying training and stuff. And then fast forward, let's say 2-3 years, I went into my fat loss phase, had my first photo shoot last year, January. It was a really, really good experience, and it actually was quite eye-opening.
Why was it eye-opening for you?
Because I've never done a fat loss phase, and it was one of those things where I've just never been so dedicated to get to something. And having that photo shoot booked, even though I was really skeptical about it at first, it was the best thing ever, because I was driven. I would make sure everything was ticked off. Like, I genuinely would walk my dog at 10 o'clock at night round the block to hit my steps, even though I'm probably in my pajamas at that point. So yeah, the dedication was unmatched. When that photo shoot was booked, I was driven to make sure that I look as good as I possibly could. So yeah, done the photo shoot, pretty happy with it, but I would like to do another one, and I'm planning to do another one this year, probably in the summertime. So yeah.
Let's go back to, obviously, the 7 days of training.
Yeah.
You mentioned as well, like, that kind of mistake it's a mistake, but you have to kind of go through it in order to, like, do you have pushback then when you went to your coach? Was like, no, I'm only going to do 3 days? Because like, our clients can actually relate to that, because they're like, I train 7 days a week, I do Orange Theory, I do Pilates, I do bar, I do everything.
Yeah.
Now you're saying me to cut that down. What do you mean? Like, did you have the same thing?
I did. I literally remember her saying to me, like, no, don't train 7 times a week. It was like a smack in the face, basically. And she told me multiple times not to do that. And I understand why now. It took me probably about maybe a month, maybe 2 months to just like actually acknowledge, right, okay, I am actually seeing my body change now. I think I dropped about 8 kilos in 12 weeks, which is 16, 17 pounds.
Yeah.
But I literally weren't doing anything crazy. I was just tracking my nutrition and working out 3 times a week. So nothing extra was being done. No cardio, just steps, nutrition and workouts. At home, by the way.
Yeah.
At home. So no machines, no nothing, just dumbbells, bench, a little barbell. So yeah, there was pushback for sure, but it taught me, I mean, it basically got me to where I am right now.
And then the objective of the second shoot, what's the why behind that?
In all honesty, I just want to be better than last time.
Yeah.
Just want to be able to look better than last time and just prove to myself that I can work even harder. And initially just, I guess, showcase the work that I've done in the year and a bit, let's say.
Also going back, why sports science over, is it because of what you're going through? Okay, I've done this, everything's activity based. Because sometimes not a lot of people would go into sports science. So yeah, what was why behind that? Okay,
so I actually wanted to go into something with horseback riding. So completely off topic.
Completely different to this.
Completely different.
No horses,
but due to the injury. But due to the injury, it kind of took a bit of a 360, and it's not something that I could have continued with, like, the enjoyment and pleasure side of things, I guess to say. And because I started working out, I was like, do you know what, actually, I'm enjoying this fitness aspect. I want to get into it a little bit more. I went in for more of the scientific approach to kind of get to know the reasons behind, you know, why if I eat this, I'm going to see the results. Why if I train like this, I'm going to see the results. And just sort of looking, you know, analysing different athletes and, you know, different individuals, women, males, it's all completely different. So yeah, that's initially my reason for sports science.
Amazing. We've got like 4 women doing shoots, right? 4 women on our team.
Yeah.
In 2025. So hopefully we're going to be documenting it. Vicky loves class as well, so she may be doing like a bums, legs, thumbs. The same thing, right? In New Jersey, so stay tuned for that. If this comes out before New Jersey, if it comes after, yeah, she already did it. So apart from that, guys, as you can see, coaches go through their own personal journeys. And this is like a case in point as well. We don't just become coaches. There's a journey to that. So stay tuned for the next team. And apart from that, guys, enjoy.